Welcome to DK Pittsburgh Sports Radio. I'm Dale Lolley, bringing you the Miller Lite Q&A broadcast today. Of course, we take your questions, we answer them here on the podcast. Hopefully we get them right. We'll see. But we'll get a couple of questions today, and so we're going to start off with Church of Greg's question. With all the talk of Rowney and Hunwick being disliked by the fans, it got me to thinking, who is the most disliked professional athlete currently on a Pittsburgh team? To me, that seems pretty simple. Now, I cover the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I see this a lot, but I think Mike Mitchell is the most disliked athlete in Pittsburgh currently. There have been some other guys over the years when you look at it. Barry Bonds wasn't all that well liked when he was here. I think he had his fans, but he also had his detractors. There have been a number of guys who rise to that level. There were people who didn't like Jaromir Jagr when he was here for whatever reason. They thought he was too this or too that, and didn't feel like he was a great player, and then they ran him out of town. I mean, you saw the same kind of thing in many cases. The Marc-Andre Fleury love fest that's been taking place over the last 6 months or so. I've done some radio shows for ESPN Radio, and was getting calls about how people wanted to get him out of town as soon as possible. He just wasn't good enough. He's, even though he won a Stanley Cup and done those kind of things, they weren't going to win another cup with Marc-Andre Fleury. Now all of a sudden, the Penguins are getting rid of him. He was a contributor on some other cup teams, and now he's suddenly the most beloved man in Pittsburgh. He could run for mayor in Pittsburgh and probably win. So that tends to change from day to day, from week to week, from hour to hour. But I would have to say, Church of Greg, that the most hated athlete right now in Pittsburgh would be Mike Mitchell. That's just, I think, part of it is the fact that his play has not been great. I thought 2 years ago he had a decent year. Last year was not anything close to that. He played an entire season, 13 games or 14 games, whatever he played in last year. Only had 2 pass defenses. For a guy who talks as much as Mike talks, you have to back that up with your play on the field, and that didn't always happen in 2017 with Mike Mitchell, and that's a big reason why he's not going to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. They will release him here sometime within the next 2 weeks as they try to free up some salary cap space. Of course, the NFL free agency period begins March 14th, and so the Steelers will have some time to get under the salary cap when that thing is set. And so we'll see what happens with Mike Mitchell, but he will be released, whether he resigns here. At the very least, they'll ask him to take a pay cut and then release him. But that's the situation that you have right there with Mike Mitchell. Looking at some of the other players around the league or around the city who aren't well liked at this point. I look at the Pirates, and there's a lot of hatred out there for Gregory Polanco. A lot of people don't think that he's going to live up to the expectations that were put forth for him. I don't know that that's necessarily his fault or whether he was oversold as a pro prospect, but there are times in the outfield when he looks like a deer in headlights, and I don't know that he's ever going to be the next big thing. He's not going. I don't know that he's ever going to be a 30 home run guy. I don't know that he's ever going to be a guy that hits 300 or 290. I think he can be a good, decent contributing Major League Baseball player, a guy who hits maybe 270 and 15 to 20 home runs and steal some bases for you, those kind of things. But he does have some defensive deficiencies in the outfield. Not a bad arm, good arm for right field, but there are times out there where he makes Manny Ramirez look like a good defensive outfielder, and that's not a good thing if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates. And again, I think that part of the reason for that was that he was a bit oversold as a prospect when he came up. He was looked at as maybe being the next Barry Bonds or being the next great, next Andrew McCutchen. And that's just not the talent level that is there. And again, I don't know that that's necessarily his fault. I think that's the expectations that were put upon him. And that's the thing that you have to sometimes look at when you talk about hatred with athletes or dislike for athletes. Guys who get drafted in the first round, they didn't ask to be drafted in the first round. That's where the team took them. So you look at that and you say, is that the player's fault? Well, no, he didn't. He's not going to say no to being drafted in the first round or being a high prospect. But at the same time, you don't necessarily blame him when he doesn't live up to expectations. For example, Jarvis Jones, he was what he was. He just wasn't a first round draft pick type player in terms of his skill set. But that's more on the Steelers than it was Jarvis Jones' fault. He didn't ask to be drafted in the first round. That's just where the Steelers took him, so they made a mistake. I think some of that is happening right now with Gregory Polanco as well. But that'll do it for our first segment of the Miller Lite Q&A podcast. I'm Dale Lolley of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and we'll be back in just a moment with the next question.
It's time to cash in on non-stop sports action with MyBookie.ag. They have in-game live betting on nearly every sporting event, plus MyBookie.ag will match your deposit with a bonus up to 100%. With decades of expertise and no-hassle payouts, you'll experience the greatest customer service in the business, guaranteed. Use promo code DKRadio to activate your bonus of up to 100%. Call 844-900-BETS or visit MyBookie.ag to open an account. Sign up today.
Miller Lite is the original light beer, and we'll always brew it to have more taste, with only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs. Because we believe that if you compromise on taste, you can taste the compromise. Miller Lite. Hold true.
Great beer, great responsibility. 2018 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Average analysis, 12 fluid ounces. Less than 1 gram protein, 0 grams fat.
What I want from my public accounting firm is big ideas.
But I don't want to lose the personal attention.
My company needs global capabilities.
From a firm with local ownership.
And I want to work with industry experts.
Who take the time to understand my unique challenges. And that's what sets Schneider Downs apart. Expertise for the most complex business issues. With the service you need every day. To learn how our big thinking with a personal focus can help your company, visit schneiderdowns.com.
If you're one of the thousands of Western Pennsylvanians who love to get outdoors, then you need to check out this amazing new website, stepoutside.org. Hi, I'm Dan Kovacevic of DK Sports Radio. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I know about the outdoor life that's available to all of us in Western Pennsylvania. Learn where, when, and how you can go camping, hiking, hunting, take part in power sports, shooting sports, water sports in your local community, across our region, across the country at stepoutside.org.
In Pittsburgh, we bleed black and gold and love our city. Born in Pittsburgh and now celebrating 130 years in business, Henny Jewelers is proud to be your premier jewelry store. Whether it's choosing that watch you've always wanted or you're searching for the ring that was made for her, trust Henny Jewelers. Visit our store on Walnut Street in Shadyside to see our extensive inventory of designer engagement rings, watches, and one-of-a-kind jewelry. For more, go to hennyjewelers.com and follow on social.
Embarrassed by that stained carpet in your office? Tired of looking at your dull, dirty floor? My Floor Needs is here to fix that. With years of experience and 24/7 service, My Floor Needs offers stripping and waxing, carpet, tile, grout, and concrete cleaning, as well as polishing and buffing services. Call 888-67-MY-FLOOR or email info@myfloorneeds.com for a free estimate and get your floors looking like new again. Whatever your floor needs, call 888-67-MY-FLOOR.
Does your company ever miss its sales goals or struggle getting new business?
Is it tough to hire or to give reps the right tools?
Hi, I'm Dan, and I started Engaged Prospect right here in Pittsburgh to help companies like yours.
And I'm Sam. We're helping companies hit sales goals and grow their businesses.
Think of us as your inside sales team.
Our clients are experts in their fields. We're experts in inside sales.
Give us a call today at 412-715-5151.
Or visit us online at engagedprospect.com/DK.
It's been 50 years since the Summer of Love, but if you're not performing as well as you'd like, check out NEDforless.com. I'm Eric Cushy of Curtis Pharmacy. Don't pay premium prices for the little blue pill. So Denafil, the same active ingredient as in Viagra, costs 80% less. NEDforless.com. All we need is your physician's name. We do the rest. Free shipping, too. NDDforless.com. Curtis Pharmacy, Western PA's Better Way Pharmacy. CurtisPharmacy.com.
Welcome back to the Miller Lite Q&A podcast here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Radio. I'm Dale Lolley, Steelers beat writer and editor-in-chief of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and sitting in here on the Miller Lite podcast. And we're going to get on to our next question. This one comes from Tim Tamasey, and Tim asks, I remember as a kid watching Pirates games, and when there was a big dispute, the manager would play the game under protest. I don't see that happen now. Can this still happen, or was it done away with? Tim, that's a good question. I don't think it's been done away with. And what would happen with when you play a game under protest, it's typically you can't protest a judgment call. What you can protest in baseball is a rules interpretation. Now, I think with some of the situations with replay and the fact that they have a direct line to New York, I believe if there's a situation where there's a rules interpretation question, they can get on the replay with New York and ask that question. Hey, are we interpreting this rule the correct way? So that may be why you see fewer of those situations where there are protests. There are still protests, I believe, on the books. You can still do that. And the way that works, if you protest a game, and I've done this before when I was managing baseball teams. I had a protest situation one time where I had a player on first, and we bunted to move the player over to second. They tried to throw to second to get the force out, and the throw beat the runner, but they didn't tag him. And so my runner at first was safe. They called the runner at second out, and then after the play was over, the umpire said the batter was out because he had made contact with the plate while bunting, which is an automatic out in a dead ball situation. And so he was calling both of my runners out, the runner at second and the runner at first. And I said, wait a second, you can't have both because there was no tag at second base. If that's a dead ball situation, then at the very least, my runner at second should go back to first base and the batter's out. And the umpire insisted, no, they're both out because that was a forced play at second base. I said, it can't be that way. If that's a dead ball, it's a dead ball. And there was no tag. He was never tagged out, so the runner at home was automatically out. Well, after a long discussion, he upheld that. I protested the game. I won the protest, and we had to pick the game up at the same exact spot where the protest took place. And so that's how that works with baseball. If you protest a play like that, you go back to the spot where the incident in question happened, and then you pick the game up from there. But there are a bunch of hoops that you have to jump through to do that, and there's a board that has to hear it. At the major league level, I'm not quite sure if that's how it works, but I assume that would be how it would work there as well. In other sports, you're kind of out of luck if there's a play and there's a rules interpretation that is wrong. You can't go back. You can't go back in football and replay the game. I don't believe you can go back in hockey or basketball. I know for sure you can't go back and replay the game. The ruling on the field is the ruling on the field. Baseball is the only one that allows you to go back and pick things up from that same spot. So it's a little bit different than the other sports in that respect. A lot of times you hear, and you heard it more back in the days when Bill Cowher was head coach of the Steelers, they got a call and an apology from the league. Well, that's all well and good, but the league doesn't typically necessarily apologize. They'll call back and say, "Hey, we got that wrong. Our interpretation of that rule or our ruling on that was wrong." But again, there's no repercussions for that. You can't go back and then suddenly replay the game. The call is the call, and sometimes, as we saw this year with the Jesse James situation, those kind of plays, those kind of rules interpretations, and those kind of on-field calls can help determine the season outlook or outcome for one team or another, and it certainly did this year in terms of what happened with the Steelers, and then of course what happened with the New England Patriots. But that's a short and long answer to your question, Tim. I hope we answered that question for you in the proper way. I'm Dale Lolley, and we thank you for listening to the DK Sports Radio Miller Lite Q&A podcast.